This program is educational support and does not replace your clinician's advice. If head or neck pain is severe, sudden, accompanied by weakness, confusion, chest pain, shortness of breath, or vision changes, please seek medical care promptly. Good morning and welcome. I'm glad you're here. At EverWell USA, our purpose is steady and simple, to help you protect your health and dignity with calm guidance you can use today, not someday. If that spirit serves you, tap, like, subscribe, and share, so these messages reach someone you love. You are not walking this path alone. We walk beside you, one small, doable step at a time. And today we're stepping into a question that makes many people pause at the kitchen counter with one hand at the back of the head. Is this ache at the base of the skull just a stiff neck, or is it something dangerous? If I told you that a great many back-of-the-head headaches after 60 are not warnings from the brain at all, but signals from the neck, tired joints, tight muscles, irritated little nerves where the skull and spine meet, would that change how you respond in the moment? Most of us were raised to fear any pain near the head and to treat every throb as a mystery. But the body you live in at 65 or 75 is beautifully honest. It tells stories in plain language when you know what to listen for. The story of neck wear and tear that complains with certain movements, and the story of blood pressure that sometimes runs higher than it should and makes vessels, and occasionally the head, feel pressurized. When you can tell those stories apart, panic eases and practical action appears. You know the first story because you've lived pieces of it. You sit in your favorite chair reading the morning paper, and an hour slips by. When you look up, the world feels a size too small behind your eyes, and a dull ache spreads from the base of the skull toward one side. Later, while rinsing dishes, you glance down, then turn to the left to set a cup to dry, and the ache pulses as if the movement itself pressed a bruise. That is neck-driven pain speaking in a polite voice. The joints at the top of the spine, tiny hinges that have served you faithfully for decades, prefer smooth arcs and regular breaks. Long, still stretches at a screen or a book, pillows that hold the head too high or too low, or a chilly draft that keeps the same muscles slightly tensed can crowd those hinges and wake up the small nerves that live there. The ache lives where the head meets the neck. It grows when you turn, tilt, or hold one position, and settles when you warm the area, change posture, and give the joints a kinder angle. People sometimes call it a tension headache, but the older neck's version is more honest. It is a posture and movement story, not a mystery. The second story asks for the same calm attention. Some viewers notice that the band of pain at the back of the head arrives on days when salt is heavy, sleep is light, worry is high, or the blood pressure cuff has been collecting dust on the shelf. Not everyone with high pressure feels head pain, and not every headache means pressure is high. Headaches are a poor lie detector on their own. Yet your face and scalp are rich with blood vessels, and when pressure runs up after a fast hallway walk to answer the door, during an argument, at the end of a long, salty meal, those vessels can pulse louder, and you feel it as pressure at the crown or a tight ring at the back. The difference here is not drama but rhythm. Neck-driven aches speak when you move or hold a position. Pressure-driven aches speak when the day runs hot with speed, salt, or stress and grow quieter when you sit, plant your feet, slow the breath, and check your numbers after a few minutes of stillness. Knowing that difference turns fear into a plan. What helps most, especially in later life, is to treat your head and neck not as enemies to be subdued but as partners to be coached. The neck is a tireless bridge. It holds your world up during news shows and phone calls, at the sink, and in the garden. After decades of that loyalty, the joints and the long ropes of muscle crave variety more than heroics, a gentler pillow height that leaves the nose pointing to the ceiling, a chair where the head lives over the chest instead of forward, a screen pulled up to meet the eyes rather than the eyes pulled down to meet the screen. You don't need a new identity to do this. You need 2 or 3 tiny changes you repeat. The way you repeat brushing your teeth. And the blood pressure story answers the same kind of steadiness. Water through the day instead of none until night. A lighter hand with salt. A few quiet minutes before you measure. So the numbers tell the truth of your body at rest, rather than the rush of your last task. It is tempting, when the back of the head aches, to push and prod the knot at the base of the skull until the muscles fight back. It is tempting, too, to reach for the strongest coffee, the hottest shower, or the thickest pillow. Those comforts make sense in the moment, and sometimes help for an hour. Yet older tissues prefer warmth without scalding, support without forcing, movement without strain. A kinder practice looks almost boring on paper and feels like relief in real life. Sit tall for a minute, let the shoulders fall, float the chin back as if a string drew it gently, and breathe so the belly moves. If you turn the head, turn it small and slow, as though you're listening rather than searching. If you rest, place a folded towel where your neck naturally curves so the head doesn't pitch forward or back. These are not tricks. They are the grown-up version of not asking a tired friend to carry the heaviest box up the last flight of stairs. You may be wondering where dangerous fits into this calm conversation. The word itself can spike pressure and stiffen muscles. Let's use it carefully. Pain that explodes out of nowhere like a clap of thunder, the worst of your life in a breath. Pain that arrives with weakness, fainting, slurred speech, drooping on one side of the face, or vision loss. Pain that rides with chest pressure and breathlessness. That is not a time to diagnose yourself. That is a time to be seen, now. Most back of headaches are not that. Most belong to the two stories we are telling together. The honest complaint of hard-working neck joints, and the equally honest message from blood vessels when the day runs hot. You honor yourself by knowing what to watch for, and by refusing to carry fear you do not need. There is a quiet, emotional peace here that deserves its own respect. People past 60 often carry themselves bravely through discomfort so they do not bother anyone. They assume the ache is their fault for reading too long, or that checking blood pressure is a kind of admission of weakness. I will offer you another view. Noticing is not nagging. It is wisdom. A neck that asks for a better angle is not scolding you. It is inviting you to sit in a way that lets you read longer with less pain. A cuff that shows your numbers after 5 minutes of stillness is not tattling. It is letting you and your clinician make decisions with light instead of guesses. Dignity grows where information and gentleness meet. You do not need a list to make this practical. You need a small scene you can live today. Imagine the next time the ache at the base of your skull announces itself. Instead of gritting your teeth or pushing through the rest of the hour, you set your feet on the floor and let the crown of your head lift as if a book rested there. You slide the chin back a breath or two and let the shoulders drop away from the ears. If a cuff lives in your home and the day has been salty or hurried, you give yourself the kindness of 5 quiet minutes and then take a reading you can trust. If the number is fine, you've given your neck a friendlier angle and your mind a reason to exhale. If the number is high, you have a fact to share at your next visit and a nudge to drink water and ease the salt at dinner. Either way, you have acted. And action in small, repeatable portions is how comfort returns. There is also the night to consider, because the night trains the morning. A pillow that props your head high to read may be the wrong partner for sleep. A stack that bends the neck forward, compress the joints, and wake you at 3 a.m. with the familiar ache. A flat nothing can let the head drop back and pinch the small joints behind. The right place is the warm middle, where your nose points to the ceiling and the back of the neck keeps its gentle curve. You will know you found it when you wake with less stiffness and the first look left or right does not scold you. Bring that same warmth to your first minutes out of bed. Stand a touch taller than habit. Roll the shoulders down and back without force, and let the head glide over the body like a lighthouse, rather than hanging like a weight. It sounds poetic. It is in fact practical. And because we are EverWell, we end this first part with hope you can feel by nightfall. You can create 2 small results today without buying anything new. The first is a posture reset you repeat whenever you change rooms. Feet flat, spine long, chin floating back, shoulders soft, breath slow, 15 seconds that moves the ache from center stage to the wings. The second is a calm reading if pressure might be part of your story after you've sat quietly for 5 minutes, not in the middle of rushing. Write that number somewhere, you'll see it again, along with one word that describes the day: salty, hurried, rested, so your future self can notice a pattern without judgment. These are not chores. They are small kindnesses to the person who has carried you this far. You came here wondering whether the pain behind your head was just a stiff neck or something dangerous. You leave this first chapter with a gentler lens. the neck's honest request for better angles and breaks, the vessel's honest request for steadier days and quieter salt, the wisdom to know when stillness and water are enough, and when a sudden, severe change asks you to be seen. That knowledge is not heavy. It is light you can carry. You and I left off with a calmer way to hear what the back of the headache is saying, how worn, hard-working neck joints speak through certain movements, and how blood pressure sometimes hums under a day that runs too salty, too hurried, or too tense. Now let's turn that understanding into something you can live with your hands and your habits. The aim is not to win an argument with your body. The aim is to give the neck and the vessels better conditions, so they don't feel the need to shout. When you make small, repeatable changes, the pain usually stops auditioning for the lead and returns to a quieter role off stage. Begin with the way you meet the day, because mornings train everything that follows. You don't have to stretch like an athlete or memorize an anatomy chart. You simply rise a touch more slowly and let your body find its tall shape before you ask it to carry a busy mind. When your feet find the floor, you let the crown of your head float toward the ceiling, not with force, more like remembering where the horizon lives. The chin draws back a finger's width, neither tucked nor poked, and the shoulders fall down your back as if they have finally put down a heavy bag. That little reset takes less time than a yawn and buys you a neck that is not starting the day on a complaint. The older neck is not fragile. It is loyal, but it prefers arcs over angles and variety over siege. If you give it both before the coffee is poured, it rewards you for hours. There is a simple way to bring that same kindness into the moments the day asks you to sit. Chairs have personalities. Some tip your head forward as if you were perpetually eager. Some hold you so far back your chin must strain just to see the world. Your task is not to buy a throne. Your task is to notice. If your favorite chair is low and your screen is high, your neck earns a grudge before the second paragraph of the news. Lift what you look at so your eyes meet it straight on. If you read on paper, bring the page up to you, instead of letting your head slide down to the page. If you love a recliner, give it a small ally. A folded towel behind the curve of the neck, so the head rests like a lighthouse above the chest rather than a weight hanging off a rope. You will feel the difference within minutes. You will see the difference when the next time you turn to greet someone, the ache does not announce itself. The kitchen can be a classroom if you let it. While rinsing dishes, you may have a habit of glancing down and to one side to stack plates or set a mug to dry. In younger seasons, this was nothing. With a neck that has carried you for decades, that exact angle downward and rotated can be the little spark that lights the ache. The fix isn't a scold. It's a small choreography change. Face what you are handling. Pivot with your feet instead of twisting from the top two neck joints alone. When you must turn, do it smaller and slower, like you are listening for a whisper instead of chasing a sound. The neck likes those terms. It likes being asked rather than dragged. Pain invites fear, and fear invites more tension. That is why understanding the blood pressure thread matters even on days when numbers are fine. If an ache behind the head blooms after a rush to answer the door or after an argument that made your pulse quick, it doesn't mean disaster. It means you can meet that moment with a practice that lowers the whole room. Sit down. Let both feet land. Imagine the back of your neck broadening rather than tightening. Let the exhale lengthen until the body believes you. If you own a cuff and you want a number you can trust, wait 5 quiet minutes and then measure. If the number is high, you have a true reading to bring to your clinician and a reason to choose gentler salt and a glass of water. If the number is reassuring, you have proof that your pause is as strong a medicine as any label. Either way, you traded panic for an action that respects both stories, neck, and vessels without dramatizing either. Travel and errands pull on us in ways we don't notice until the head complains. A quick grocery run becomes a long wait in a line where your head leans forward to read a small screen. A grandchild's recital becomes an hour of sitting in a hard folding chair, shoulders creeping toward your ears. You do not need to avoid life to avoid pain. You need to pack your anchors the way you pack your keys. On the way out, slip a small note into your pocket that reminds you of your 3 resets. Tall crown, soft shoulders, chin floating back. In your bag, a light scarf can block a chilly draft that keeps muscles braced. In a folding chair, sit on the edge of a jacket to lift your hips a whisper so the spine can stack and the head can rest on that stack. If you drive, bring the seat back to meet your spine, rather than craning your neck toward the wheel. None of this announces itself as therapy. Yet when you add it up over a week, the back of the headache loses its favorite excuses. Let's give this some life by stepping into a quiet scene you might recognize. A neighbor stops by with a bowl of cherries from her yard. You visit on the porch, then you both move inside to rinse the fruit. You find yourself telling the story of your headache, how it visits in the late afternoon, how it blooms when you turn too quickly or stare down at a crossword, how it sometimes seems louder after salty soup, or a hurry to finish a task. She listens and nods, the way someone nods when they have done the same dance. You both try the same small experiment right there. You set the bowl in front of you instead of to the side. You turn with your feet. You let your chin draw back a breath. And you rinse with the tap open enough to do the work without hunching forward. The ache doesn't vanish like a trick, but it loosens. Later that night you notice that when you got up to turn off a light, the world didn't press behind your eyes. It wasn't a miracle. It was choreography. Older bodies are practical, and they like practical partners. Hydration is one of those partners. Too little water during the day can leave vessels and the tissues around them less comfortable. Too much water late at night steals sleep, and poor sleep makes the whole system more tender. If you place a glass where you'll reach for it each time you change rooms by the kitchen sink, near the favorite chair you will drink steadily without a lecture. Salt is the other practical friend to adjust with the same humility you bring to posture. You do not need a perfect diet to have a calmer head. You need to pay attention to the meals that make your ring fit tighter and your face feel flushed. Soups, deli meats, certain sauces, and frozen dinners often carry more salt than they look. When you choose a day of simpler, fresher food and more water, the next morning's head often thanks you even if the scale says nothing. Sleep is not only medicine for the mind. It is a nightly negotiation with the neck. The pillow that cheers you while reading can be a saboteur when you close your eyes. If your head is propped high, your neck bends forward and the top joints complain by dawn. If the pillow vanishes into a pancake, your neck falls backward into an arch. Those joints do not love either. There is a middle that invites peace. Support that holds the back of the head so your nose points toward the ceiling. And a small fill in the curve of the neck so the head is neither jutting nor drooping. You can test it in a minute. Lie down. Slide your fingers under the curve of your neck. If there is a canyon, fill it with a folded towel until your fingers can't sneak through. If there is no space at all, you are bent, and the top joints will tell you about it before breakfast. You don't need to buy anything new to discover the right height. Most people have the right height in a linen closet, waiting to be folded. Gentle movement during the day is not a punishment for aging. It is a thank you for everything the neck has carried. You do not need an exercise video to give your joints variety. You can stand at the counter and float your head tall, while your shoulders imagine sliding into back pockets. You can look straight ahead and slowly turn your eyes. Then your head, only as far as the neck says yes, not to the edge of no. You can tip the ear toward one shoulder and then the other without rounding forward. If you like imagery, picture the head gliding like a boat on a quiet lake instead of bobbing like a cork in waves. If you don't like imagery, picture nothing and simply move small and warm. The goal is not more motion. The goal is motion that your tissues recognize as safe. There will be days when the ache arrives without a neat explanation. Those are the days to choose steadiness over stories. Think of it as you would think of weather. If you wake to rain you did not plan for, you don't call yourself a failure. You choose shoes that don't mind puddles and a coat that sheds water. If a band of ache circles the back of your head on a day you did not expect, you choose the practices that shed that weather. Tall crown, soft shoulders, quiet breath, fewer angles, more arcs, a glass of water, a lighter hand with salt, and a reading you can trust after you have been still. You may find, by evening, that the clouds left while you were busy living, not because you chased them. Sometimes people ask for a dividing line they can hold when they don't feel sure whether the head is warning of pressure or simply reflecting posture. Here is one that helps more than it sounds like it should. Does the ache care about movement or mood? If it grows when you turn, tilt, or stare downward, The neck is telling the story, and the fix lives in how you hold your head and what you ask it to do. If it grows when the day speeds, when salt is heavy, when worry is high, and it eases with a seat, an exhale, and 5 quiet minutes, the vessels are telling the story, and the fix lives in how you slow the day and what you feed it. Many times both stories overlap. It is rare in life that one thing alone is the reason, but choosing which lever to pull first keeps you from pulling none. Let's not leave out the quiet companions that make everything louder or softer: light, sound, and stress. Harsh overhead light and long, tight focus can make the muscles at the base of the skull work harder than they need to. A softer lamp that lights the page rather than your eyes can be the difference between a pleasant chapter and a complaint that follows you to bed. Noise that keeps the shoulders braced will feed the ache long after the noise stops. A favorite song at a lower volume can do more than silence ever could, because it invites your body to settle. And stress, well, you already know. The neck tightens to hold the world up when the world is heavy. You will not solve stress by wishing it away. You can give your tissues a pattern that tells them they don't need to hold the ceiling alone. A slower breath while the kettle warms, a short stroll after a phone call, 5 minutes in a chair where your head floats over your chest instead of hanging in front of it. None of that changes the facts of your life. It changes how your body holds those facts. I want to return, before we close, to the dignity question that sits under all of this. How do you keep living the life you have? A life with phones and screens, errands and grandkids, folding chairs and grocery lines without letting an ache at the back of your head shrink your world? You keep living by shrinking the leverage the ache has on your day. You do that with tiny practices that are so ordinary they disappear into your routine. The reset you repeat every time you enter a new room, the habit of bringing what you look at up to eye level instead of holding your head down to it, the glass of water you place where you'll drink it without having to remember, the 5 minutes of stillness before you measure. So the number you take is the number that reflects your real resting state. Put together, these choices say to your body, I heard you. Bodies that feel heard are quieter. And because EverWell always asks for something practical you can feel tonight, give yourself 2 results before you sleep. First, adjust the pillow you already own until your nose points to the ceiling and the back of your neck rests in a soft, supported curve. Set it, and then lie there long enough to feel the back of your head become a calm, heavy weight, not a craned lookout. Second, choose one moment this evening to practice the posture reset. While standing and while seated, the same light lift of the crown, the same easy fall of the shoulders, the same small glide of the chin back, and notice whether the ache moves out of the center of your attention without you having to chase it. These are not grand gestures. They are small, faithful acts. And older bodies love faithfulness. You came here wondering if the pain at the base of your skull was just a stiff neck or a sign of danger. You now carry a kinder map. How posture and angles tell one story. How pressure and pace tell another. How to meet both with steadiness rather than fear. And how to know when a sudden, severe change is a call to be seen at once. The map will not keep every cloud out of the sky. It will keep you from standing in the rain without a coat when you could have chosen one. And that is what we are after. Not perfection, but choices that return your comfort and your day.